Hey guys, Valky here. Season 14 is here, and so is the E7 World Championships qualifiers. I've been playing a bit of both myself, and it's been fresh seeing a lot of new faces and new drafts. If that sounds like you, I'm here to give you that oomph you need, that last edge you might want to eke out a win versus your opponents in this tumultuous time. So let's get right into it. With the new season comes a new meta, which I dove into full detail in this video, which I'll link below. But to really understand the meta, we'd have to go into the ones that defined it. Blood Moon Haste versus Dragon Bride Senya, which came out as the two new best units in PvP after Haste buffs and Senya's subsequent release, putting them head to head in a battle of the Titans with 3 units as their supporting cast. If you're not caught up, both are bruisers that, on top of being incredibly tanky, offer fully defense penetrating damage to run over the likes of Navy Captain Landy and Abyssal Euthine, completely overthrowing that last meta. Between the two of them, their differences are: Haste is better in fast matches, whereas Senya is solid in matches across the board. Haste is weak to debuffs, whereas Senya is a little bit weaker to injury. Haste is stronger in a 1v1, but Senya has better team synergies in her units that she can run with. And speaking of those units, Haste is generally run with units that support cleave and aggro like Rand, Ludwig, Politis, Green Celine, and Sid, whereas Senya's preferred teammates include the likes of Peyra, Janua, Roana, Briar Witch-Isaria, and Navy Captain Landy. Based on these units and synergies and your playstyle, you can choose which one of these behemoths you want to add to your draft accordingly. If you're taking these units to play cleave and aggro, then you're probably tailoring your pre-bans along the lines of Zio to unlock your first turn priority, Bellion to unlock souls, or Laya to play around cooldown delay. If you're a hardcore turn 2 gamer, then your pre-bans are Janua to remove the best true damage nuke in the game, Knockwall to unlock counterattacks and your cooldowns, or Sea Phantom Politis to unlock Fighting Spirit and focus units to play defense with. Now, if you have neither one of these units, then your best option would be to ban both, since fighting both of them would be an uphill battle both ways with 2 mammoth-sized opponents running down at you. If you're a turn 1 player, then after banning them, your preferred pick would be Sea Phantom Politis. But for turn 2 players, you want to first pick Laya and build your composition around her. Again, if you need to see stats or guidelines for how to play or build any of these units, you can always find information on them in the hero catalog in the Discord server linked down below. And that is essentially most of the meta drafts broken down in a nutshell for you guys on that climb you'll be having. Third pick ban protection is the newest gimmick added to season 14 to spice things up. It makes the third pick of every single draft immune to the post ban, meaning the most OP units will usually get snatched up in picks 1 and 2. Third pick in the draft is where it really opens up creativity for you to outplay your opponents if you can correctly identify their core weaknesses. There is almost always a way to trap your opponents in an unwinnable scenario. Like in this example here, Knockwall is in particular a very nasty third pick, since my opponent doesn't have the option to pick Laya, which is her only solution, and Knockwall can shut down so many units by messing up cooldowns and stopping counterattacks. If you felt like you've been outdrafted super hard in this format and you're always on the losing end and it feels bad, don't worry. This is normal, since the format really rewards good drafts and punishes mistakes extra hard. So if you felt like that, don't worry, we've all been there. What can you do with this information? Well, first up, it lets you punish greedy picks in your opponent's opening rotations. For example, if your opponent is first or second picking Conqueror Lilius, then you can answer with a Bunny Dominion or Ocean Breeze Luluka. If they pick an early Death Dealer Ray, then once again, Beedom and Dragon King Sharoon is the answer. If they go early Luluka, then you want to take Solitaria. If you're looking at the Haste Senya combo, then you want something along the lines of Janua or Gala Lilius. They got Navy Captain Landy, then you want to lock in something like a Biblis or a Malona. This isn't limited to specific units. For example, if you smell a cleave incoming, you can lock in your Albedo to secure mitigation for anti-cleave, or if your opponent is drafting all counterattacks, then you can just lock in your Biblis and have nothing to worry about. Reading the flow of the draft and deciphering your opponent's team composition here is the key, and you become very rewarded if you can do that correctly. Now, if that is too big brain for you, don't worry. I gotcha. You could take advantage of the ban protection by sticking a linchpin unit on third. What do I mean by that? Well, for cleave, Ran or Payra on third pick is a standard procedure at this point, which leaves your fourth and fifth pick to grab any of these cleave bridges, giving us a structure of not only guaranteeing the opener at a very high speed, but also 2 anchors. That really lets us close out the remnants of the cleave if they choose to fight against 2 anchors, especially some of these OP bruisers. On the flip side, if you're hardcore turn 2 gamer, you can use third pick ban protection to lock in 1 DPS unit, leaving more unit slots to cover their weaknesses. Your first pick is one of the OP units that act as a second source of damage. Your third pick here is going to be where you lock in your hard damage, and this unit needs to be able to survive a lot of bullshit. Navy Captain Landy, ER Galililius, and Janua come to mind. Even a 3F Bellion could go here. And then the rest of the draft, you just pile on mitigation, revive, cleanse, or debuffs as your opponent tries to finish their draft while you counter their every single move. Regardless of which way you play, third pick protection for the most part has been a breath of fresh air that's shifted the power balance of first pick versus second pick, where before first pick was stronger, and now because second pick their ban protected units reactively, they actually take a lot of advantage back from the first pick player. I've been having a lot of fun with this format, so I hope you guys are having just as much fun playing it in this high stakes game mode. There's no way talking about the E7 WC mode without talking about the BO3 format, the best of 3 format, and how you can target ban your opponent. Since your opponent's name is now being shown in matchmaking, and there's E7 WC qualifications on the line. So we'll take every edge we can get. Meaning, if we are trying to make E7 WC and we queue up, we see an opponent, we can immediately go to their E7.gg page, find common trends in their draft, and then target ban accordingly. If I queued into this Valky guy, I'd load up his profile, notice he plays a lot of Ram, Rowana, and Landy, immediately hone in on any of those units. Maybe I ban his Landy, maybe I ban his Ran to take him out of his comfort zone. That is a huge thing in tournaments. Making your opponents play uncomfortable, it'll take them longer to think, longer to react, and that's less time for them to make their and plan their next move. Now, you might say this is kind of cringe, and well, that's how tournaments work. You find out who your opponent is ahead of time, and you start doing research on them, and you start generating strategies as well as generating likely counter strategies to stop what they want to do and their game plan versus you, since they also have access to the same information you do. And because this qualifiers is for the highest level of RTA being played at E7, you really want to take every single edge you can get to eke out that win. Outside of pre-bans, we also got the OG round mode select ban system in between rounds. No longer will our post-ban just get locked in as next game's pre-ban. We can tailor our game 2 and 3's pre-ban around our opponent's playstyle. In the example game, I lost match 1 to my opponent when his Bunny Dom was able to stabilize versus my Payra out. So I decided to add her to the pre-bans for game 2. After coming back in game 2, which the pre-ban did a lot of work in, I noticed my opponent's strategy being tied very closely to that first pick death dealer Ray, which was probably on insane gear since I couldn't ever debuff him and he was always putting my ER units to sleep. So despite not being a huge issue for me, I'm just going to ban it for game 3. It doesn't really change that much for me, but for my opponent, he's gonna have to take longer to think about his first pick, get out of his comfort zone, and have to do more legwork in order to reach the conclusion of his draft. Honestly, in the end, it kind of let me destabilize his entire strategy, and in this brief set, I used my opponent's tendencies against him, which gave me a clear edge as the final winner of the set. Of course, this isn't an Uncle Vout guide if I didn't give you guys a cheeky little tip at the end. This is for when you're up 1-0 in the best of 3 playing that Haste versus Senya draft. And logically, if your opponent lost, this is where they would normally choose second pick, since that's where now players get that third pick ban protection advantage over their opponent. Second pick is now much stronger than this format. That's what most people would do. Perfectly logical. First pick in this format, be at a slight disadvantage, except if I ban one between Haste or Senya, whichever one you don't like playing, you ban it, and suddenly, with first pick, you're guaranteed to have the other one while your opponent is just sitting there and trying to figure out how the fuck they're gonna have to fight the Haste with no Senya, which gives you an absolute edge in this closeout game. Versus similarly skilled opponents, that advantage is normally enough for me to win a draft by a comfortable comfortable margin, letting me easily close out the set 2-0. And it's something I've done for a long time, playing in many tournaments even back in the days, getting yourself ever slightly closer to that final grand prize. Woo! Alright, that's this video. This video has been some of the most valuable experiences I learned and relearned playing the past 2 months or so. If you found it helpful, a like, a comment, or a subscribe goes so much into helping smaller YouTubers like myself, since my goal is to be on YD size one day. Shout out to YD though for clutching out our team's set during the WCG Rivals event. That was a lot of fun, finally getting to be in an event with YD. Since I won't be playing in the E7 WC qualifiers at all this season, I decided to take a few sleeves up my ace and essentially just share it with you guys, honestly. I hope even though I'm not playing myself, I can have some sort of positive influence for the community and for the event overall. If it helps you here, even if it doesn't help you here, I hope it helps you in a future tournament. Who knows, maybe it's a tournament I'm hosting, maybe it's a tournament I'm casting in, and you know, either way, I just like seeing positive impacts being made. That's today's video. I'll see you guys in the next one, and stay safe out there. See ya.